Hi everybody!
So I didn't do a comparison video with Dulon, since I didn't have access to a game he has previously appeared in. I do, however, have the King of Fighters 2002 so I have access to Hinako through that. So, how faithfully have SNK brought the Sumo Princess into KOF15? We'll discuss that in this video. First up, we'll discuss her 02 iteration. So I have admittedly not played that much of earlier King of Fighters titles. Of the older titles, the ones I have played the most is the King of Fighters 14, which is still considered a modern game. Over the last year, I've played King of Fighters 2002 for a total of 20 hours, which really isn't that much. However, I have fooled around with Hanako a little bit with my admittedly short time with this very old KOF game. If you've watched my channel for any length of time though, you'll know that I typically do not enjoy grapplers. The only ones I can think of off the top of my head that I do enjoy have more of a striker component to their gameplay. So technically speaking, Hanako isn't a character I'd gravitate towards on a usual basis. After playing around with her a bit more for this video in 02 I have to say, yeah, I'm not the biggest fan even though she is a speedy character for a grappler. But the things I do not enjoy with grapple-heavy characters remain an issue with Hanako. She's still slower than my preferences. Also, she tends to have a lot of circular inputs, which are inputs I've never been very good at in fighting games. So that's a barrier of entry for a lot of characters for me. I know someone's going to be in the comments and tell me that's a good thing, that some things shouldn't be meant for everyone. But that isn't what I'm really talking about here. Even if I was good at them, I just don't enjoy grapplers. Why do I dislike grapplers though? It's because their gameplay just isn't that fun for me. Yeah, I like being up in your face like a grappler wants to do, but I'd rather smash your face in with a rushdown character over throwing you about like a rag doll, which is a grappler's thing. That just isn't for me. Give me speed, give me mix-ups, and give me waifus. Specifically Vanessa or B. Jenny, please. I also wouldn't say no to Leona or Blue Mary either, though.
Sir, I'm gonna let you off with a pass on that one, but don't do another joke like that again, okay? Or otherwise I'm gonna have to do it. But
yeah, upon revisiting Hanako for this video, the Sumo Princess just isn't for me in the older King of Fighters games. Because of the very nature of grapplers, because the style just isn't fun for me, and there's the fact some of her moves still feel slow and clumsy. While she's smoother than most other grapplers, she isn't as smooth as I'd like. So let's move on to her KOF15 iteration. So I'll keep this kind of brief. SNK managed to very faithfully adapt her into the King of Fighters 15. This is something series veterans are going to love, especially if they mained Hinako in one of her previous appearances. I still find her to be fast for a grappler, but relatively slow in general. Her damage output is pretty good, and she actually has decent pokes. But again, she just isn't for me. If anything, I'd say they adapted her a little too faithfully, as she almost feels like a one-for-one copy and paste job from her 02 version. For some, that is going to be desired, for others, it won't be. For me, it's something I'm not a fan of because I'd like to have seen her gotten a few more extra tools and make her feel less stiff gameplay-wise. So no, Hinako is not going to be a member of my rotation after all. I thought that would be a possibility since I hated Sylvie and Najd in KOF 14, but I absolutely loved playing them in 15. But I'm realizing more and more those two characters fulfill a niche in my team composition. They're also fun for me to play with, whereas Hinako just isn't for me, but that's okay. In the very near future, I will be putting out a video that will be my review for the second season of the King of Fighters 15, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. So I've covered my personal opinion on Hinako. While she isn't for me, she is a good enough character she will find a role on someone's team. She isn't really like Billy Khan or a Whip, both characters who were low tier for life when they launched. So I figured I should provide some insight into that. Hinako is probably the most beginner-friendly pure grappler on the roster, as her inputs are far less strict in their timing compared to some of the other true grapplers like King of Dinosaurs, for example. This is partly because of her speed as well, which I would say equates to around average. She is also a good pick for someone who feels like they need a more defensive option on their team. If your team is mostly comprised of zoners, for example, Hinako is going to slate right into your team composition nicely, especially if you use her as your mid. You can literally sandwich her between two zoners. Oh god, I just realized how bad that one sounded. Why do I get the feeling a certain someone is going to make a Master Roshi joke at my expense here?
Ah, yes, and this is exactly what I was talking about. You see, Colin, you're not just as bad as Master Roshi is. You are worse than Master Roshi. I can see the blood just jetting from your nose right about now. Okay? Look, I get it. She's a good-looking character model, okay? But they're just pixels on the fucking screen, my guy, okay? They're just pixels on the screen. They're not real. There's nothing to get worked up about. Oh, hello there, Miss Croft. How you doing?
Anyways, Hinako can also slate into a grapple-heavy team as well, as she fulfills a specific use case more than some of the others. Most grapplers in the King of Fighters have a tendency to be slow with high damage output. Hinako has middling speed and moderately high damage, meaning she's best utilized when you know you're going up against some speedy characters. I don't have enough matchup information to say who the definitive good and bad matchups for Hinako are, but I can say this: I really struggled when I used my main Vanessa against her in some matches against the CPU. For those that don't know, Vanessa is all about speed and melting the opponent's life bar whilst also building meter for her teammates behind her. This is why you see Vanessa used most often as a point character. She was also the beating heart of VRT in the very early days of this game. For those who don't know, VRT was the meta for the first few months, with Vanessa at point, Ralph at mid, and Terry as the anchor. Also, Ralph is technically speaking a grappler. With that team, you had a Rushdown, a grappler, and a Shoto, making for a well-balanced team. Also, like Ralph, Hinako isn't a character who's particularly meter-dependent, but she does well with a little bit of meter, so let's get into the positioning next. So I personally feel like Hanako more or less lives in the mid-character position when it comes to team comp. Some may disagree with me, and I'm perfectly happy to hear where you feel she slots in best, but I feel like the mid is the best position for Hinako given she can do some stuff with meter, but she isn't a meter-hungry character like a Terry, a B-Jenny, or some other characters who really want to have as much meter as possible for their super and climax moves. Also, I don't really feel like Hanako is a character that shines when used in the point position, mostly because she won't have any meter to work with, though she is capable of building it to a degree. Again, making a case for her being an excellent character for the mid slot. Otherwise, she would do pretty well as an anchor if she is your best character. I know most KOF players prefer to put their best character at point and then their second best character in the anchor slot. Personally, I go best at anchor for this one reason. If you're on your anchor, there's no additional chances after that. Once your anchor's down, the match is over. So for myself, I use the anchor as the nuclear tryhard option. Basically, when I'm down to my anchor, I want to bring the match back in my favor. Hence why I put my best character here. So if your best character when playing the King of Fighters is Hinako, consider using her as your anchor. In this position, she'll have the most meter and be at her deadliest. If you found this video useful so far, please consider hitting the subscribe button and giving the video a like. Both go a long way to helping out the channel. I'm presently on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and my goal is to reach that by January 1st. So those were just my thoughts on Hinako in the King of Fighters 15. What do you think of her as a character? Also, if you're a Hinako main, do you agree with my viewpoint that she is best in the mid or anchor spots? Let me know in the comments. Want more of my King of Fighters analysis? 2 of my previous KOF videos will be popping up on screen now. Check them out, and until next time, keep blazing that trail.